Welcome to tonight's Tanya class. We are in Tanya, the last section called Igeret Hakodesh, and we are holding chapter 30, Perek Lamed. So every chapter in Tanya has its own message, even though everything is interrelated. And the subject for this chapter, there's always a few, but we're going to pick one, and that is when a person does a mitzvah, you create tremendous blessings. And the Alter Rebbe is going to show you Kabbalistically how by doing a mitzvah you create tremendous blessing. So the Alter Rebbe begins this chapter quoting from the Talmud. The Talmud says like this: we know that we're supposed to pray every single day, 3 times a day, and you're supposed to pray in synagogue with a quorum of at least 10 men. The greater the minyan, the greater the blessing. So a person should go to synagogue to pray every day. Not only should you go, but you should have a set place in the synagogue to pray. You shouldn't be today sitting here and tomorrow somewhere else. You have a set spot. It helps with the concentration. So the Talmud says like this: what happens when a person goes to shul every day and one day he misses? So if you go to shul every day and one day you miss, are your friends going to notice you? You start missing a lot. Oh, what happened? Everything okay? Maybe, But the Talmud says like this: a person goes to shul every day and once you miss, God, as busy as he is, asks, where are you? Where are you? That's what the Talmud says. Now, why does God ask, where are you? So the Talmud quotes a phrase from the prophet Isaiah that says like this. I'll read it in Hebrew and I'll translate. The author doesn't bring the whole phrase, but I'm going to quote it because it's important. Isaiah says like this: Mi b'chem yirei Hashem, b'shomeya b'kol avdoi, and I'll translate: Asher halach hasheichim ve'eno ge'eloi, yiftach b'shem Hashem v'yashem belakav, which means, who amongst you has an awe of Hashem and listens to the voice of his servant? Though you're walking in darkness and you don't see any light, you should trust Hashem and rely on Hashem for everything. In other words, what does that mean? The prophet's saying like this: when life is good, the light is on, we see the light of Hashem, guess what? We're plugged in with Hashem. When life is going great, say, thank you Hashem, oh, Hashem is amazing. What happens when there's a struggle, when you don't necessarily see Hashem in your life, or you feel like not only you don't see Him, you feel like Hashem is not in your life? What does it mean Hashem is not in your life? You're walking in darkness. You don't see Hashem. When you see Hashem, it's a resemblance of light. You're in dark. A, you're in dark. And B, you don't see the light. So you know what happens? You don't show up to shul. So the prophet says, you think it's dark and you don't see the light, so you don't show up. The prophet said, don't do that. Why? Because if you trust in Hashem, what does trust mean? In other words, if somebody is standing right here, do you have to trust that he exists? He's right there. When do you have to trust them? When they're not here. When they make you a commitment of something that doesn't exist right now or right in front of you. They say, I promise I'll do this. Why do they promise? Either do it or don't do it. Because if they do it, they don't have to promise. So we're talking in a case where they're not doing it, and you're trusting they're going to do it. So Hashem says, the prophet says, Hashem is saying, it's dark. You're going through a struggle. You don't see the light. No. That's why you didn't come to shul? That's why you should go to shul and trust in Hashem. Because when everything is going great and you show up in shul, that's wonderful. But when you're going through a struggle and your life is dark and you don't see the light, you're not showing up. Why? Because you don't see it. So the prophet says, no, that's when you should show up. Why? Because you trust in Hashem. Very, very strong piece of Talmud, and again, based on the prophet, that the reason why Hashem is asking, how come you didn't show up, meaning to say is not how come you technically didn't show up. It's a deeper question. What do you mean you don't show up? Why didn't you show up? Because obviously you're going through a rough time. You want to stay under the cover. You want to stay under the radar. You're embarrassed. You don't necessarily feel comfortable around people. So what does the prophet say? No, that's when you should show up. Have trust in Hashem. Everything is good. Hashem is there with you and for you, in great times and more importantly in dark times. So the Alter Rebbe says, even though the Talmud is speaking about what? A specific case, someone not showing up to shul, which is a mitzvah. You got to go to shul, pray with the community, etc. But the Alter Rebbe says this applies to all the mitzvot. It applies to all the mitzvot. And not only that, the Alter Rebbe says, we all know that it says in reference to charity, that charity is compared to all the mitzvot. So the Alter Rebbe says the same logic applies also. When do you do mitzvot? And again, there's 613. You can list all 613. 248 positive, 365 negative. When do you do them? Because you see the light, you feel the light, so you're ready to do all the mitzvot. However, come inside, have a seat. Right, chairs right there. So when you feel the light and you see the light, then you're ready to do all the mitzvot. But what happens when you're going through a struggle and you don't see the light? Guess what? You stop doing the mitzvot. So the Alter Rebbe says the same logic that applies to prayer service that you didn't show up. Why didn't you show up? Because you're going through a dark time, you're going through a struggle, and the prophet says, what do you mean? Trust in Hashem, show up. So the Alter Rebbe says that logic should apply to all the mitzvot, and specifically the Alter Rebbe is going to address, specifically in this case, in reference to charity, which means, when should a person do all the mitzvot? Always. So when you see the light, when you see Hashem, and when you feel the Shekhinah, and when you feel like life is great, for sure you're going to do it. But we're talking a case when you don't see, when you're going through a struggle, when you're going through a challenge, so you want to stay away, you don't want to do, you want to avoid Hashem. So what does Alter Rebbe say? The same logic applies. Don't avoid. Have trust in Hashem. Show up, not because you see the light, not because you feel the light, show up because you trust in Hashem. That Hashem is always going to be there for you. And if you show up when you trust Him, you'll always do it. What is Alter Rebbe speaking specifically? He's talking and he takes a leap over here and he says like this. The Alter Rebbe was very, very strong campaigning with people supporting Isreal and the land of Isreal, and specifically Torah scholars in the land of Isreal. Because we already discussed many chapters in Tanya, the Alter Rebbe explains the strong need and importance to support Isreal, it's Eretz Israel, and specifically people that sit and study Torah in Isreal. And it's our schus, it's our merit to support them. So the Alter Rebbe says, what happens, and he's talking to people, listen, last year you donated to Israel. You donated to poor people in Israel, to people sitting and studying Torah in Israel. You didn't make a promise. You just did it. No pledges, no commitments, you just did whatever you did last year. So Alter Rebbe says, guess what? Do the same thing again this year. But you're going to say, what do you mean? I never committed this year anything. Last year I gave. Why should I give again this year? And the Alter Rebbe says, very, very simple. Because the fact is like this. Even though you don't have to, but you gave last year. Now the fact is, the people in Israel need you. They need you. And there's a real need there. And especially in a time of exile, where we don't see the Shekhinah that we should see in the land of Israel. And the Alter Rebbe brings where it says, Sukkot David hanofleth, an expression we say it actually in the grace after meals, certain times of the year. Sukkot, God should bless Sukkot David hanofleth, which means the Sukkah, the abode of King David hanofleth, which fell, which is referring to the fact that certain things aren't necessarily in its glory. In its glory in exile. And there's two things Alter Rebbe says is not in its glory. One is Israel. We don't have the Bet HaMikdash. We don't have the Shekhinah in its full glory. So obviously the Sukkot David, King David is one that built the temple. Obviously that has fallen. And more importantly, on a spiritual level, Malchut, we know in the Sefirot, it starts with either Keter or Chachma, and the lowest sphere is Malchut. So Malchut, also in exile, is broken. So the Alter Rebbe is saying, by giving charity, even though you didn't make a pledge, you just gave it last year, but going ahead and giving it again, not because you have to, but giving it again, you're rebuilding spiritually Israel, the people in Israel, and more importantly, the sphere of Malchus that is struggling in the time of exile. Now, why do we have to give the charity? And again, on a spiritual level, here we're going to go into the back roads on a spiritual level, why it's so important to give charity. So Alter Rebbe says like this. Because there's something which is called the unity of Echad be'Echad. You know, in Shema we say Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. There's one God. What does it mean, one God? So we know one doesn't mean one versus two. One means the only thing that exists is one, is Hashem. So our job in this world is all about creating unity of Echad be'Echad. My oneness with Hashem's oneness, the community's oneness with Hashem's oneness. It's all about creating the oneness. Klipa is all about I. I am separate than you. I am separate than him. I am separate than Hashem. It's creating divisions, creating mountains. Judaism, Kabbalah, and spirituality is all about creating oneness. There's no I. There's no we. It's us, all together. So our job in this world, spiritually, is to create more echad be'echad. One with one.
Well, what's the difference between echad and echad be'echad?
Echad be'echad, my one and Hashem's one, all flowing into one. It shouldn't be, God forbid, I and you, one and one. We all become one. And we really are one. We really are one. That's the truth. We really are one. There's no really me. The whole me and I and you is an illusion of exile, because God's concealed, but really we're one. So this illusion that unfortunately we can stop believing is real, we have to bring it back to echad be'echad. In other words, the Alter Rebbe was saying our job is to establish and to elevate everything echad be'echad. Now, so the Alter Rebbe says there's two levels of echad be'echad. One level is literally when you give charity to another person, when you help somebody else, you know what you just did? You took two people and connected them. I, you, me, him, and when you help that person, guess what? You became one. So the first thing that happens is when you give charity, you're creating echad be'echad between two people. Two people become now one. Why? Because you care about them, you help them, and you become one. That's on a physical level. The second level, that represents on a spiritual level, is what happens when you do charity. We're going to read the words, I'll explain it, and we're going to go into deeper how it actually works. I'm just going to show you how it works. So we know in the Sefirot, there's something which is called Zah, which is Ze'am from the small face, which is referring to the 6 midot of Chesed, Gvur, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, Yisod. The emotional midot as a package is called Zah, and then the midah right under it is called Malchut. Something that's called male and female. But Zah and Malchut are the 6 sphere, the emotional sphere, and then you have Malchut. So the Alter Rebbe says, every time you give charity, you're creating a unity between Zah, the 6 midot, and Malchut. So the sphere become united. You don't want the sphere to be not united. It's all about creating echad be'echad, unity, one with one. So the first level, one is literally between two people, physical human beings. But more importantly, or as important, is creating the unity between Malchus and Zah, which actually is called, on a spiritual level, the words of Kabbalah, they call it, and we say it every single day in davening before Baruch Shama, or some Siddurim say it in other places as well. We say L'Shem Yichud. What do we say every day before Baruch Shama? L'Shem Yichud, to create a unity of what? Kutsha Brichu, the way Hakodesh Baruch Hu is holy, Ushchinte, the way God comes down into the world. What's Kutsha Brichu? Kutsha Brichu is referring to the 6 midot, and Shchinte is referring to Malchut. So we say the Shem Yichud because the idea is to create the unity of Kutsha Brichu and Shchinte, which is again the 6 midot and Malchut. So our avoda in this world is to create echad be'echad. One person to the next, Malchus and Zah, Kutsha Bricha and Shchinte, and think about it. And that's the kavanah, that's the intent before the whole Sukkot Zimra. It's not just to go off in a dance and I want to have an exciting time in prayer, a spiritual time. No, it's about bringing down Kutsha Brichu into the Shechina, or elevating the Shechina back into Kutsha Brichu. Whichever way, we create the oneness. Now, so what happens, Alter Rebbe says, how did this happen? How do you create echad be'echad between two people, Malchus and Zah and Kutsha Bricha Shchinte, is what? By giving charity. So the Alter Rebbe says, look how powerful your charity is. Every time you give a penny in the charity box, you help somebody, you get someone a job, whatever the charity is. Charity doesn't only mean money. You spend time, you help somebody, you make someone feel good, you tell someone a good word, you motivate somebody. It's all charity. Charity means you're stopping thinking only about yourself, and you're thinking about somebody else. So anytime you do something for someone else, that means you didn't think only about yourself. You went out of being a self-identified person, but you really want to do to create unity. You're doing charity, and charities on many, many levels. People think it's only about money. It's more. Not only money's one of the ways. There's so many ways. You tell someone a good word, give someone a compliment, tell them a nice word, tell them how proud you are of them, and they're doing a great job. That's charity. You make them feel good. There's physical and the spiritual charity. So the Alter Rebbe says, guess what? So think about what happens when you're doing charity. You think it's just a few dollars you're giving the person, you help the person. No! You're creating echad be'echad. You're unifying you with the other person. You're creating the unity of Malchus and Zohar. You're literally playing in a good way with the Sefirot. And you're fixing the Sefirot. You're establishing and you're reunifying the Sefirot. And as Alter Rebbe said before, that in Galut, Malchus is broken. Malchus is not connected completely. So every time we do charity, we're connecting Malchus with Zohar. So Alter Rebbe says, guess what? Every time you do it, you're creating a bond. So how many bonds should you create?
Countless.
A lot, countless, exactly. So every single time you do a charity and you help somebody and you say a kind word, you're creating a unity between you and the other person, and between Malchus and Zohar. So the Alter Rebbe says, and we discussed this already a few times in Tanya, that let's say, for example, you want to give charity, let's use dollars for an example, and you want to give $1,000 to charity. Pick any number, just picking a number. You can give it one shot, boom, it's done. But guess what? That was only one union. Or you can break it up into 10, 100 here, 100 there, or even 100 in different days, different weeks. Guess what? Every time you're creating 10 bonds versus one bond. An act of charity is one bond. Obviously, a bigger act obviously creates a bigger bond, but it's still one bond. It's one big bond. The point I was saying is that you should give multiple times. Try to give more and more. And every opportunity you have to create charity, another good word, boom, it's another bond, another bond. So the point I was making is to constantly try to have many, many opportunities to give charity. The Alter Rebbe quotes, we all know this quote, but I'll say it, from the Talmud, and it says, Kol pruta upruta, every penny and penny, mitztarefes, it equals up, lecheshbon. Cheshbon means an accounting, gadol, a big accounting. It's a big number. In other words, the Alter Rebbe says, one second, what is the Talmud telling you? If you give $1, you gave $1. You give another one, now it's 2. And you give another one, it's 3. And let's say you do it 100 times. Boom! So any kid that went to school knows that if you gave $1 100 times, how much is it? 100. Is 100 way bigger than 1? Yes.
100 times.
100 times. So the question I was asking, what's the big chiddush? What's the novel idea? The Talmud's telling us that every prut is a big cheshbon gadol. So the Alter explains Kabbalistically, and that's why you need sometimes the world of Kabbalah to show you what the Talmud's saying. Because then you read, what's the Talmud saying? This pshat. Simple meaning. He's telling you, sure, you give a lot, you'll have a bigger number. But that's what the Talmud's telling us. The Alter explains like this. He brings a verse, and he brings from the Zohar. The Zohar says like this. I'll say it in Hebrew and I'll translate it. Ein Mosai Gadol Havaya. When is Havaya is Yud Kei Vav Kei, the most powerful name of Hashem. Ein Mosai Gadol Havaya. When is Yud Kei Vav Kei great? When is Yud Kei great? So he says, the Zohar says, Kishahu, when Yud Kei Vav Kei is Be'ir in the city Elokeinu of God, of Hashem. In other words, like this. So the Alter explains like this. The Sefirot generally are infinite. Chesed is infinite, right? Gvura is infinite. There's no limit to how much chesed you can do. There's no limit to how much constraint you can be. Tiferes, everyone, the intellectual Sefirot, all the Sefirot are infinite. What restricts the Sefirot? In all the 10 Sefirot, which Sefirah is limiting? Which one is limiting? Malchut, exactly. Because Chesed is just ready to give non-stop. Gvura doesn't want to give non-stop. Tiferes is compassion non-stop. Malchut says, whoa, there's a cheshbon. We got to figure it out. How much Chesed, how much Gvura, how much Tiferes. All those limitation, and again, we're not saying bad and good, but we're just talking the concept of limitations, and limiting takes place in Malchut. Malchus is all about limiting. Now, so in other words, so what is the Zohar saying? The Alter Rebbe explains that when is Yud Kei Vav Kei, the infinite light of God, great? That means it's a lot of cheshbonot when you can define it in this the quantitative numbers. When he's in the city, what's a city? What's a city by definition? A city is made up of one house. It's not a city.
A lot of people.
A lot of people, a lot of houses, a lot of roads, a lot of stuff.
Community.
So in the Sefirot, what's considered a city? In the Sefirot, what's a city? The only one in the city is Malchus. Infinite is not a city. So in other words, the Alter Rebbe is saying is that when is Yud Kei Vav Kei, when is the infinite God great in terms of cheshbonot, a lot of numbers, when he's in the city, when he's in Malchut. In other words, our job is to bring down the infinite light of Hashem, we're into Malchut. And then when you have the unity of the infinite light and you have Malchus where it's packaged up, that's considered what? A cheshbon gadol. In other words, like this. The Alter explains as follows. What's the Alter uses the word mechuvan? What's the purpose? What's the goal? What's the destination? What's the vision? So he says like this. There's something which is called isarusa delatata, and there's something which is called isarusa delayla. Two important Kabbalistic terms. What does isarusa delatata mean? Isarusa comes from an awakening, the latata from below. Isarusa delayla means awakening from above. Now, there's many ways it plays out, but this case, the Alter explaining is like this. For example, let's say you want someone to do something for you. So either they'll do it for you or not. But what happens, you really want them to do it for you, and they're not doing it for you. So you can do something nice for them. And we all know the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, the face you show in the mirror, that's the face you come back. And the person has no control. If you smile at somebody, they're going to start smiling at you. Let's say the person's angry or upset. And you walk in, hey, how are you? It's so good to see you. And they're still upset. But if you smile at them, it's so good to see you. At some point, the shell will break down and they're going to start smiling at you. But the question is, when you walked in, they were so upset. What happened? And the answer was, it's very simple. The smile that you show in the mirror, that's what you get back. So if you say the person is not being nice to me, ask yourself how nice you're being to that person. And I'm not saying to become a victim or judge yourself. I'm saying is that we have the power to create the flow of energy from the other person. Not they have the power, we have the power. So when you walk in and they're upset, and then you can't control yourself and you get back upset at them, guess what? You're going downhill. But if, even though they're not in a good mood, even though it's not going the right, you say, hey, life is great, and you smile, they loosen up. That's what happens. And the other person can't control it. Because the way the image you show in the mirror, that's what you get back. So Isreal Tata means the awakening from below. In other words, the way you behave, guess what? As angry or upset God can be, He's going to shower you with blessings, infinite blessings. So the Alter explains like this, and he spells it out. When you create chayim, he uses a few expressions. I want to explain each one because it's really, really important. Because this is the key to living a great life, and like we said in the beginning of the chapter, to receiving the great blessings. When you create life around you, what does that mean? You're a living human being. You're not like, I'm half asleep, half dead. You're alive. Come on, let's see. Is everyone alive here? Alive. Come on, feel alive, right? When you create life, so a life for yourself, you're not like walking around I'm not even going to do it. I don't want to go in that zone. But if you walk around, hey, life is great, life is wonderful, we're alive, we're well, right? Life is beautiful. And then you create it for other people. So not only are you creating a life for yourself, but your whole environment, right? You're around life, you're around greatness. That's one thing. We're going to soon talk about what you get back. But you create life around you. Then the Alter says you create chen. You know what chen is? Actually, my grandmother's name, his name was chen. But chen means backward. No, backwards. Chen is grace. Grace. When you're graceful, not because of anything, you're choosing to create a life of grace for yourself and for other people. So there are two things. There's 5 ingredients Alter Rebbe picks. Now again, hopefully you can do all 5. And if you do 2 or 3, you'll get back 2 or 3. Whatever you put in, that's what you're going to get out. Then the Alter says, you practice chesed. What does chesed mean? Chesed means being kind. Chesed doesn't mean I'm kind to you because you're kind to me. That's not chesed. That like you're like you're tit for tat. You're not in the game. Chesed means my job in life is to do chesed. I'm kind to you. I'm kind to him. I'm kind to her. I try to help here. My job is wherever I can do chesed, I'm available. What did Abraham say when God said to him? He said, Hineni, I'm here. I'm ready. What do you need? You need to do this? With pleasure. You need to do that? No problem, with pleasure. There's never a time you say no. Chesed. Chesed means kind. Chesed also is Ava. Love comes from Chesed. Chesed is you love, you're kind, life is great, you're graceful, everything is wonderful. Now, 3 things. I told you 5, the Alter Rebbe says. The fourth thing is, you have Rotzain Toiv. You have a goodwill. You create goodwill. You create goodwill. More goodwill, more goodwill. Look at the energy you're creating. Chayim, life. Chayin, grace. Chesed, kindness. And goodwill. We're not finished. And the last thing the Alter Rebbe says, you create what? Sever ponim yofis, which means like this. You can be alive, you can be graceful, you can have chesed, you create goodwill, but you do it like, take it and fly a kite, right? Alright, take it but stop bothering me. You just took it and you blew it. Sever ponim yofis means, you do it with a smile, and you do it with real happiness, that you're happy to do it, you're like, every part of you wants to do it. Even though the act knows, when you, for example, help somebody, what's helping the person? The physical help. Whether it's in monetary issues, or physical help, physical labor, whatever it is. But you can do that, okay, I gotta do this. Or, no, I'm happy to do it. Guess what you just did? 2 mitzvot. You did the act, and you did the whole experience was different. So the Alter Rebbe says, you ready for this? So you're down in this world, you're practicing chayim, life, chayin, gracefulness, chesed, kindness, rotzain toiv, goodwill, sever ponim yofis. Now, who pays us? Hashem. Not your boss, not your employer, not some family member, nobody. The one that pays us is Hashem. Now, our resources are finite or infinite?
Infinite.
A what?
Infinite.
Ours are infinite? Wow. I gotta find where.
Business has been good.
Business is good.
He's a little bit ahead.
Okay, good. Are we finite or infinite?
Finite.
We're finite. So we can practice chayim, chesed, rotzen, toiv, and say it's all great. Finite. We can't do more than finite. We do the best we can. We push forward. But guess what? Who pays us back? Hashem. So we just did a susal tata. We made this world beautiful. It's Hashem's world. And he goes, whoa, this person is like creating good energy. Let me send them some energy. Who's sending the energy? Hashem. Is Hashem finite or infinite?
Infinite.
Infinite. So you know what you're going to get back? Infinite amount of life.
That's what it means.
No, whatever you put in. You put in chayim, life, we're live, you're going to get infinite life from Hashem. You're going to get infinite chayin from Hashem. You're going to get infinite chesed from Hashem. You're going to get infinite ratzon, goodwill from Hashem. And you're going to get this huge smile from God. Florida must be doing great things. The sun is always shining here, right? We earned it. Why do you think the sun is shining in Florida? Because we shine with mitzvot here. Not for all other reason. No, right here. That's so. In other words, again, so what's Alter saying again very clearly, and this is very, very important. This is really will change your life. You create what you want coming from Hashem. You want to have a good life. You want Hashem to give you great. Just be light. Give life. Give chayin. Give grace. Give kindness. Give goodwill. Be nice to people. Hashem is, and guess what? Once you have it from Hashem, life is great. Life's amazing. Now, so what happens like this? So the life that comes from Hashem is the infinite light of Hashem. And that infinite light of Hashem comes down to where? To this world. What's this world called? The world of Malchus. And the infinite light of Hashem, it's not just where it's out there. No, literally. The infinite light of Hashem starts penetrating in every part of your life. In a real tangible way. Also you see, whoa, this is like, it's a little scary how great it is. But who started the process? We did. We did and we could. But the reward is huge. Because you're bringing down the infinite light, the Orein Sof, the infinite light of Hashem, down in the world of Malchus. So the Alter Rebbe says, bring it back full circle. What did the Alter Rebbe say? He quoted from the Talmud that says, Kol pruto, pruto, every penny, every dollar, every amount you give creates a cheshbon gadol. A cheshbon gadol. What did the Alter Rebbe explain? Kabbalistically, when we say cheshbon, it doesn't mean a total. Cheshbon means a cheshbon, but spiritually, what does cheshbon say? What did the Alter Rebbe say? What does cheshbon mean? Which sphera? Malchut. Cheshbon refers to Malchut. So he's explaining the piece of Talmud Kabbalistically. Every charity we give, that means we're giving life to people, we're giving kindness, we're giving graciousness, we're doing it with a smile. We are creating a Cheshbon Gadol, which means Cheshbon Malchut in this world. We're creating a huge energy in this world, in the world of Malchut. How do we do that? Again, by giving charity. So therefore, the Alter Rebbe says, you gave last year. Guess what? Give again. Because by giving, you know what's going to happen? You're going to bring down this huge infinite light into Malchut. And when you do that, the Alter Rebbe says, not only do you bring down into Malchut's infinite light, but you also create shalom. You create peace. Now we all know what peace means, right? So the Alter Rebbe quotes from the verse in Isiah that says, to prove it, V'haya ma'aseh hatzdaka shalom. That the act of charity is peace. That means when we give charity, we create peace. What's the peace that we create? So the Alter Rebbe explains, very simple. What does peace mean? For example, is this table, the way we see it, one piece or two pieces? We see one piece. Now the fact is, this table, you think it's really from one piece? There's probably millions of pieces of particle, right, that was put together, and they have a nice veneer. So I'm assuming, I don't think it's a piece of wood.
No.
Right? It's right, put together in particles. So is this table one piece or many pieces?
Many pieces.
So it's many pieces, but it looks like one piece. Right? It looks like one piece. So what does shalom mean? Shalom means, so this is many types of the same piece. What is real shalom? And this is very powerful. What is real peace? Real peace is like this. If you have two people that we call them two peas in a pod, do you have to create peace there? No. Two people that understand each other, get along, they get along. Peace means, on a real level, on a spiritual level, is when you have two polar opposites. Two polar opposites. Two people, you say right, and they say left. You say white, and they say black. You say sun, and they say right. So, hello, are these people ever going to get along? Seemingly not. Oh, but the art is, what's the real art? To take two polar opposites and get them to get along. Get them to see each the other person's perspective. When the person says right, the other one says left. Say, listen, maybe there's a way you can go right. And the one says right, then maybe you can go left. And when the two of them start understanding each other and relating to each other, that's real peace. There are two people that start to begin with right, there's no peace there. They both want right. But when you have two people, one wants the right, one wants the left, and they both learn that the right learns as the left, and the left learns as the right, that's peace. The one that only sees white, doesn't see black, the one that sees black doesn't see white, and they start respecting and learning from each other, that's real peace. So the Alter Rebbe says, so why does charity create peace? Because think about it. Infinite and finite, are they one or are they opposites? Totally opposite. This is infinite, this is finite. So when the person gives charity, originally infinite was in heaven and finite was down here. When you give charity, what are you doing? It means you're giving chayim v'chein v'chesed. You're causing this infinite light to come down into this world, into, and our specific, into the world of Bria, the world of Yetzirah, the world of Isiah, in this physical world, into this finite existence. So every time we give charity, we have the power to create the greatest peace and the greatest blessing. So in other words, you see here clearly, the Alter is making a beautiful case to show you the tremendous impact you have every time you do a mitzvah. And specifically, as he says, the mitzvah of charity. Every time you do the mitzvah of charity, you are creating an awakening from below, which causes an awakening from above, which practically means you're unifying. Your act of charity down here, you think it's, I gave some charity. Okay, help this person. No. You cause the infinite light of Hashem to come down in Malchut, and you create real peace. And once you create real peace between those two, you're creating the biggest blessings in this world. I think once you learn this chapter, it gives you a whole new excitement in life. It gives you, you're laughing, right? It gives you excitement in life to help people. It gives you excitement in life to create life around yourself, to create blessings, to create goodwill, to be nice to people. Because guess what? You're doing great things, and you're giving maybe of yourself, but guess what? Look what you're getting back. Because as much as you can do, it's only finite. Hashem starts giving you, now it's infinite. So the reward is not way greater. You can't even say way. It's off the charts greater. I think this chapter of Tanya, Perek Lamed, Igeret Hakodesh, anytime you're looking for some inspiration, how to keep on going, even when it's dark, like you said in the beginning of the chapter, even when you don't see the light, to keep on doing it, because guess what? Hashem says, where are you? Because if you were here now, guess what? You'd be creating the greatest blessings for yourself and for this world, and we'll all merit to have beautiful blessings, infinite blessings in our life.
Thank you, Rabbi.